Simcha, celebration, Simcha, Simcha, the celebration of life.
Shalom from me, your host Jared Epstein, and welcome to Simcha, a celebration of life. Once again, we have a bumper lineup for you. We begin a new series on love stories from the Bible. No, that's not a dating show. We visit the Jacob Gitlin Library and pay tribute to the Durbanville-Belleville Hebrew congregation. The story of Isaac and Rebekah's love is one of the most beautiful romances in the Torah. The truly wonderful thing about this story is the amazing fact that before it became a story of love, it was a story of faith. It took the faith of several people for it to become a real tale of true love. Rebbe Nicole Green shares how this love story unfolded.
Love, firstly, is in the word ahava. Ahava means love, and it has a root in the Aramaic, which is hab. Hab in the Aramaic means give. So the understanding of love in Judaism is less about a feeling and more about an act. And this act is primarily an act of giving. Not an act of taking, not an act of getting excited about, though all those things may be there, but primarily love between two people happens through giving. And we are going to look at a couple of models, or at least one for today, which is going to give us a good indication of this giving. It starts off with the relationship between Isaac and Rebekah. Eliezer is Avram's servant. He's sent off to the land of Abraham to find a wife for his son Isaac, who is now 40 years old. His mother has just died, or has died a couple of years prior, actually. And he is given strict instruction to go to a certain place because there is an understanding that the right wife would be found there. No more instructions are given to the servant, and it's quite fascinating as to what he decides upon as being the central quality of this person who is going to join Isaac in marriage. And Eliezer goes off in search for this wife, and in his mind he's got a fairly important kind of plot that God needs to participate in to bring about the desired person. And that is, if I come to the city, and if I bring all my camels, and if I find a young woman who out of her own volition, lowers her jug and gives me something to drink and possibly even gives my camels to drink, I will know she is the right person. This is fascinating because obviously the servant Eliezer has seen what happens in Abraham's household, and he understands that it is through acts of goodness and kindness that this entire situation operates. So in his mind, what's foremost, what has been his experience, is chesed, which means an act of kindness. And so lo and behold, the young woman arrives, she sees a stranger. It's not in the way of young women to greet strangers, but she worries that he looks tired, and she says, "Would you like something to drink?" And there goes the whole episode of Rivka going back and forth to the well, making sure that water has been given to the camels until a whole retinue of camels has drunk, which is quite a lot of water. Never for one moment did this woman stop and think, maybe this is enough. Maybe I've done enough. Maybe he can do the rest. No. Eliezer is fascinated. His wish has come true. He asked this young woman whether he can go and meet her parents. And obviously they ask for her permission to follow the stranger to the land of the betrothed. And as she arrives after a long journey sitting on the camel, she sees a man in the field. It is none other than Isaac. She asks, "Who is this man?" And she's told, "It is Isaac, the son of my master." And there and then, Rebekah falls off the camel. Young girl, great dream. What did she know about Isaac? She knew about Abraham and Sarah. She knew about their life devoted to loving kindness. She knew about their belief in one God. It was sufficient for her to follow a stranger. out into the open. Interestingly, the Bible is quite succinct in terms of what it wants us to know. It's part and parcel of it being of infinite depth and infinite size. But what does it tell us about this encounter? It tells us that Isaac took Rebekah to his mother's tent. He took her for her wife, and then he loved her. And the juxtaposition of these three words and the succession one after the other is very indicative in terms of what was it that he was looking for? Why should he take her for a wife before he loved her? And why does love come right at the end of this threefold experience? And so the understanding, according to many of the sages, is that Sarah's tent was a miraculous tent. Sarah's tent was so special that a cloud rested on top of her tent to attest to her good deeds from above, that her bread was satiating for days on end until it was finished, and that her lights, which she lit to kindle the lights of the Sabbath, stayed lit the entire week until shortly before the next Sabbath. So Isaac was keen to find out, what is the moral caliber of this woman? Who am I marrying? Am I marrying somebody who shares in the qualities that I have seen? Or am I marrying somebody of another caliber altogether? So he took her in the tent of his mother to see, his late mother, to see what would happen. And lo and behold, the three miracles returned. He then took her for a wife, and then he loved her. And this is a perfect example of seeing how accumulation of good deeds, accumulation of goodness on both sides, from both parties, one to the other, actually leads to love. Not love that is sudden and like a bolt of lightning, but love that grows and nurtures on a kind of soil that's fed with goodness and with kind deeds. And the love that the Torah speaks of here is love that is built on countless acts of decency and goodness that one does for the other. So much so that it nurtures the soil of the relationship so real love can grow. That is primarily what we learn from the love of Isaac and Rebekah from this angle.
The Jacob Gitlin Library in Cape Town means different things to different people. For some, it's simply a place to borrow interesting books, magazines, newspapers, DVDs, and even CDs, and you still get those. For scholars and students, it's a valuable resource and research center due to their archival material and reference books.
The Jacob Gitlin Library has been here for about 57 years. It wasn't always in this building. It was first of all on the foreshore, then it moved to Lewin Street, and then about 20 years ago they came to be part of this wonderful Gardens Community Center with the Holocaust Center and the Jewish Museum and the Garden Synagogue. It is the only Jewish community lending library in South Africa. There are the university libraries which have Jewish sections of Jewish interest and history and Jewish civilization, but this is a lending library for the whole community, not just Jewish people, but Jewish people and non-Jewish borrowers. So we open the library to everyone, which I think is also quite unique. There was always a need for a library, not just for research, but a lending library where people could come and do research and take out books. But I do know that this was a dream that Jacob Gitlin had, and that's why it's called the Jacob Gitlin Library. He was a very strong Zionist, and he believed that there should be a library. And I don't think he lived to see the library being opened, but it was his dream.
Every day here is different. There are people coming to do family research to find out about a Lithuanian shtetl where their family came from, so I can help them do their research. I'm also in charge of the children's library which we have, so I need to source books, and we're very particular about the books that we put into our children's library. For example, I like to focus on getting books that are, yes, Jewish festivals, but also values.
The children's library is a new addition. It was something that I really had in mind when I started here, because the children's books were just on a bookshelf in the front. And I found that on a Sunday particularly, the children were sitting on the steps and trying to find a place to read, and we were almost tripping over them. And we had a separate room which was just utilized for DVDs. And I thought, no, let's bring out the DVDs into the center of the library, and let's create a room for children where they can be comfortable and sit on bean bags and read, where grandparents can read to them, where parents can sit and read. And so this materialized, this Jacob Gitlin Children's Library came into being, and it's been very successful.
We have schools that come on outings. We have different grades that bring them on outings, like for book week. We have then we often get the younger students that come. We give them a little tour of the library, and we run a program for them. We read books, obviously suitable to each age group, and we get them excited about books and libraries. We also visit some of the schools, and then often it's to coincide with a Jewish holiday, and we'll bring a book to tie in with the holiday, and we'll talk to the kids, talk to them about caring for books and reading, and then we'll read them a great story as well.
And actually what's starting to happen now, because we have a children's library, is that through the children we're reaching towards bringing in their parents and their grandparents. And so it's become a really Jewish communal lending library.
Friends of the Library is people who pay 180 Rand a year, which obviously goes to help us buy books. We have, I think, almost 300 friends of the library, and what happens with that is in January, February, March, everybody pays their fees. During the year we get people who would like to join and become a friend of the library, and they don't pay for reservations.
You find every book which has Jewish interest, so it's a Jewish thread through everything. So that the author would be Jewish, the content would be Jewish, the subject is of Jewish interest. There's an enormous section dealing with the Holocaust. There is a wonderful reference section. And of course there's a section just for recreational reading, where you'll find your very popular authors that our borrowers just come simply just to take out and switch off and enjoy a good read. You find everything, history, philosophy, and of course a large religious section too, on a biblical interest, Talmud, Kabbalah. So we've got something for everyone.
We do displays, we change our displays to match up, to link up with events that are happening. The display that we have at the moment is to coincide with the release of the film about the Yiddish Song Festival, which is fantastic, which has really revitalized Yiddish in Cape Town. There is such interest, and we've got such wonderful books on learning Yiddish and Yiddish stories, and even introducing children to Yiddish. And we wanted to show that we've got books and CDs, music, wonderful Yiddish music, and films as well.
We have book launches, we have evenings of different videos that are watched that we perhaps share with the Holocaust Center, or we'll share with the museum or something like that. So we have those evenings where we'll all kind of get together and send out big mail invites to everybody to bring the community together. So there's quite a lot that we do and have to get everybody together.
I think it's very important with our digital age that we're in that libraries reinvent themselves or refocus. And there is definitely still a space for libraries in terms of, yes, the books as well, but also that they are the space just filled with ideas and excitement about books and authors, that there are actual people that you can talk to and discuss ideas and get advice, and just not a dead space. It's an alive space. It's a space that you come in and you've really enjoyed being here. That's, even if you just browsing the books and you don't take them out, you've still gained something by being in this space.
I think it is very important because it's bringing us together. It's bringing the community together. It's telling us about different things from different people that have written, that could be true stories, anything, you know. It's something that is, it's just wonderful. You don't really get that in very many places in South Africa or anywhere in the world.
A lot of people don't know about us, and this is really a problem. They say, oh, there's a library near the Holocaust Center. Oh, there's a library near Cafe Retova. I never knew there was a library. But once they find the library, you know, they come back. So I'm hoping it will grow in membership. I'm hoping we'll remain a jewel in the crown of the community as it has always been. And I hope that this library just continues going from strength to strength. And I'm very, very privileged to be able to work in such a wonderful environment and among the people I work, and with this wonderful array of books around me.
Welcome back to Simcha. The history behind each synagogue tells a small part of the story of South African Jewry. This is true of the Durbanville-Belleville Hebrew congregation, which is the last surviving shul in the northern suburbs of Cape Town, an area which at one time had a large and vibrant Jewish community.
I was brought up in the northern suburbs. My dad was a doctor in Goodwood, so I'm a northern suburbs person. Until I got married in 1967, we moved to Belleville, and at that time I joined the Belleville Shul. Prior to that, I'd been a member of the Goodwood Hebrew congregation, which became defunct in the 80s, in the 70s or 80s. So I moved to Belleville, and at that stage, when I moved to Belleville in 1969, you had to reserve your seats in the shul. There were so many Jewish people in the area. We had a rabbi, and we were a self-sufficient shul. We'd managed to do everything. We had functions, we had services, we had a chayra, we had teachers, we had everything. We had the full package. That stage, there were between 100 and 200 families at that stage in the 1969. Unfortunately, in around about 1980, there was a split in the community. And we went from the Belleville Shul, which created the Belleville and Tygerberg Hebrew congregation. There was two shuls, the one being in Belleville and the one being in Parow. We sold the Parow Shul, so the Tygerberg Hebrew congregation no longer existed. So we then were left with the Belleville Hebrew congregation. That we had until around about 2012, when the area became so bad that we decided to sell the shul. And because of the availability of this shul in Durbanville, and because it was hardly used at that time, we decided to rather amalgamate the two shuls, and thus was created the Durbanville-Belleville Hebrew congregation.
Moved up to Durbanville Shul in 1980 after having been born in Belleville and educated there. got married, moved to Durbanville, and have been here ever since. With Durbanville-Belleville having been our previous chairman, a wonderful fellow who kept the congregation together, appreciated it. And when he announced that he would be moving to Sea Point and eventually emigrating to Jerusalem, he asked me to continue the services, continue the congregation, bringing in boys from Sea Point to give us a minyan and have a Shabbaton once a month. So when Belleville sold their property because of also lack of numbers really, I invited the Belleville congregation to join us, which they did. And with the funds they were able to secure from the sale of the property, we were able to expand the Durbanville Shul by putting up a new hall to use for functions, which works very well. So it runs nicely. We're pleased to have the Friday night services working well. It's a very small handful, but a few dedicated people, which makes life worthwhile.
The earlier part of the 20th century and towards the middle of the 20th century, I believe there were a number, I would imagine there must have been more than 100 families in the Durbanville area, because Durbanville, there were a lot of farms, and a lot of the Jewish people owned the farms, and of course the businesses. There were Jewish people owning the businesses, and the professional business, the professionals as well. Today, we're sitting now with only 13 families and 23 individual members. That's the total sum of our congregation at the moment. However, we do have Friday night services, and we normally have a minyan, and we have Yom Tovim. We pride ourselves on the atmosphere in the shul, and it's a pleasure to come to shul, and that is why a lot of the people do come to our shul, because it's a pleasure. It's not a burden for them to come to the shul.
It's good to keep the congregation going. It was established by the input of a few wonderful people many years ago. From the cornerstone, I see the shul is now 90 years old. So obviously for the past 90 years, there have been some very good, strong people who saw the need to educate the children in the Jewish religion. So it's been good to see them put up this facility. And I believe it's necessary for us as later members to keep it going. I've only been a member here for the past 37 years, so I don't believe it would be right to close the doors and say, sorry, we're leaving. We are still around, we must keep it going, and invite people to join us to keep the services going. So we're grateful that it does work, and we wanted to continue.
People think that a shul is there for show, but I think that it's important that people realize that they need to have some kind of religion within their family, and it prides. I think we are very proud. We are very proud that we can show the people outside that we are a small community, but we've got something to bring us all together. I'm very proud to be a member of the shul, and I'm very proud to have the congregation behind me, who I do have, because without the congregation, we might as well close our doors.
Well, that's it for this week on Simcha. As always, we'd really like to hear from you, so go ahead and send us a Facebook message. From me, Jared Epstein, and the Simcha team, we wish you a week filled with love and memories.